You're thinking about selling your home in Orange County, California, and you're wondering when is the best time to optimize my profit. As somebody who's sold 3 personal homes here myself, plus helped 250 plus buyers and sellers successfully buy and sell here in Orange County, here's what I've learned about timing. So I want to give you a couple things in this video. First, I'm going to walk you through how to time your 2026 selling. When is the best time for you? Secondly, I'm going to give you a couple stats that I think will shape your opinion on when and how to come to the market. And then lastly, I'll just give you some general tips, things that have been helpful for me, kind of prepping your home for sale. I have been involved in remodeling, I think maybe 14 or 15 homes for clients, also my own properties to sell in the last 2 years. And there's some things that I've learned that I think you'll find super valuable. So long spiel, let's dive right into it. Okay, so let's talk about timing. So we're coming off of a year that was relatively slow. So average interest rates last year were 7.07%, okay, for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So it was generally a slow market. We saw the days on market creep up from about 60 days to a little bit over 85 days. So it got a little bit slower, especially toward the winter time, which we're coming off of. Now, interest rates have recently dropped. Some are seeing them in the 5s, but they're averaging right now about 6.07%, okay? So that is really interesting to know that we are now stepping into what is a more affordable market. It's really not that affordable. We're all feeling that pain right now, but it is way more affordable than last year. And here's how you need to understand what your timing is, because the common misconception is that springtime is the best time to list. But let me just explain something to you. Starting the year right now, we have the lowest level of inventory we're going to have pretty much all year until next December. So there's not a lot of competition. And then we have demand that is kind of on its way up right now. So we have really low amount of sellers, and then we have demand that is kind of on its way up. So low supply, increasing demand. If I was going to sell my home, and in fact, in the last 2 homes that I sold, because I learned this lesson, helping many clients, I typically like to list my own properties the second week of January to the first or second week of February. That to me is the prime time to list my home, where I'm not fighting all my neighbors, and I'm catching on the bandwagon of the buyers that are kind of on their way up. Now, if you can't sell during that time, or if you don't want to sell during that time, that's okay. You could still sell during other times. This is just kind of the perfect storm for home sellers. And let me explain one stat to you. The most listings come on the market, so the top times for when listings come on the market is May. Now you would think, and you've been taught, and we've all been taught, that springtime is the best time to list a home. But is it really the best time to list a home when the most amount of your neighbors who have the same floor plans, similar models, similar lots, they're coming on the market as well? That just means that that's like, I'm trying to sell a product while all of my competition is launching the same exact product. So that is really important to know that, May is not generally, I would not want to list my personal home in May. In fact, I had to list one time close to May, and it just felt a lot slower. Whereas when I listed my home in January, I had multiple offers and the home sold in a couple of weeks because there was nothing else available. Everybody's coming off of that winter market. So right around September, October, let's say October 1st to the first week of January, activity just kind of falls off of a cliff. Nobody really wants to be looking at homes on, during Thanksgiving, during Christmas. So that is something that's something that's really important to note. So timing wise, this is my advice to you. If you can list earlier in the year before most people list their home, most of the listings get listed between March and August. That is the time where the majority of the homes come available for sale. That is a good time for buyers because you have a lot of options. So that is something you really want to pay attention to. If you can, list earlier on in the year. Okay, let me give you some other stats that I think will be really important to you as a home seller if you're planning to sell this year. I know that this has completely changed the way that I sell homes and the way that I do business. One is that first-time home buyers are the lowest part of the market right now. So there's only 21% of all buyers nationwide are first-time home buyers, and their median age has gone up to 40 years old. Now I want you to think about that for a second. 10 years ago, the average first-time home buyer was maybe, low 30s, right? But now they're getting up in their 40s. That means it's taking people a lot longer to save for homes, and you don't have as many of those first-time home buyers in the market. Well, how does that affect you as a seller? Well, something that, you may not think about or you may not realize is that first-time home buyers typically pay the most amount of money, okay? I think about my wife and I, like when we're looking to buy our first home, I think it was maybe 2015, 2016, we were so excited at that opportunity to be able to buy, like we would have paid whatever the seller wanted. But second-time home buyers, third-time home buyers, you get a little bit less emotional with it, and you're not willing to, play all the games with the sellers anymore. So that is really something that's important to know. Also, the things that second-time home buyers value is different from the things that first-time home buyers value. Second-time home buyers are wanting to come in and they're wanting homes to be really put together nicely, with some more of the structural stuff taken care of, like AC, water heater, furnace. So I wouldn't recommend doing those things before going on the market, but having a plan to address them. A great thing that I can think about is if I were going to sell my home and my furnace was older or my AC was older, I would actually offer to pay for a 2-year home warranty for the next buyer. That way they know that the AC and all of that is covered for the next 2 years. It might cost me $1,800, $1,900 for a 2-year home warranty, but that is way better than $15,000 for what's going to cost to replace my entire AC furnace unit, right? So they're valuing a little bit more of those things, and they're wanting things to be very move-in ready. More and more, I'm seeing buyers deciding in advance that they're wanting move-in ready homes. A statistic from the nationwide contractor Curbio came out recently, and they said, hey, 76% of buyers won't even look at a home if they don't believe it's turnkey. So if they don't believe it's move-in ready. Now, why is that? This statistic is kind of crazy, and it's more than it has ever been. I remember when I was, first starting in my real estate career, like people did not care if homes were renovated. Some of them even preferred to do their own renovations when they moved in. That has sadly been flipped completely upside down, and I'll tell you why. The reason is that people would rather finance their upgrades than pay the money for it, because people are spending a majority of their income on their housing, they're spending a majority of their reserves on housing, and they no longer have additional money after closing to do those repairs. So if you have a home that maybe has a funky paint color, maybe has some things that need to be renovated like bathroom vanities or flooring, spending money wisely there can really increase your returns. We're seeing big returns in terms of profit. You spend $10,000, you make $20,000. So we're seeing that all the time with a lot of the homes that we're listing. And we're also seeing it cut down on the days on market. So right now, the average days on market in Orange County, depending on your price point, the total average is 101 days. The hottest market right now is 66 days. That's between 1 million and 1.25. And so we're seeing it cut down the days on the market and just generate more offers. So, in summary, that's kind of where the market is headed right now. We're having lower interest rates. We think prices are going to kind of climb up a little bit. It's a good time to list before everybody puts their home on the market in May. And if you could do some pre-listing repairs, some pre-listing renovations, don't spend too much money, but just tastefully spend money on the things that will have the highest impact. That is what is going to help you achieve the highest profit, the fastest sale, and the best experience. Again, done this a lot. I've done this for myself, so I'm speaking from personal experience. This stuff works. I have a lot of well-documented examples of clients' homes that it's worked with. Having said that, if you're curious about the value of your Orange County home, feel free to email me, Steven@herdhomesre.com, Steven@herdhomesre.com. If you just shoot me an email with your address and your timeline to move, What I'll do is I'll actually just do a screenshot video of your neighborhood, and I will pinpoint some of the sales in the neighborhood, explain the different upgrades, and go through the photos. And I'll just give you like a 2 to 3 minute summary so you really know the real values of your home. I'm not talking about the Zestimate or the Redfin or the things that can be off as much as 5 to 10%. I'm saying, hey, here's a really accurate range that your home will sell for. All right, well, thank you guys for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.